was thinking a little bit about how people never really go outside anymore. I usually like to get up in the morning and make a cup of coffee, and then I'll go for a walk around the neighborhood. And I've been doing this for several years now, just living a pretty quiet life, kind of hanging out. And if I was going to tell you what I like to do, I'd say I like to play games, and I like to spend time outside. And those are really the two things that I spend the most time doing. And I don't do either of them in any extreme way. I just like to be outside and I like to play games. And so I have this interest in both. And I think it's interesting how a lot of people will criticize gamers, and they'll say, well, if you're playing games, you're wasting your life. You're just not doing serious things. You're not doing important things. That's kind of been a trope. It's not anything new. It's been around for a long time. But what's fascinating is those same folks will spend a lot of time watching TV or doing other things that are really very much sedentary. And I think about this when I go outside and I just look around at the neighborhood. I look around at the streets, and there's going to be some people who are maybe down on their luck. They're homeless people or something like that. You'll see them on the streets, and you'll see people who look like maybe they're poor and they don't have a vehicle or something, and maybe they had to walk to the store or something like that. And then there's a few people who are active at parks. You'll see the joggers. You'll see some dog walkers. It's not to say that you don't see anybody. But the really crazy thing is, if you don't factor in people in cars, and you don't factor in people doing things that they clearly have to do, like going to the store to buy food, or going to work and doing some sort of a job that requires them to be outside being active, people really just don't do it. I mean, it's just kind of crazy when you realize that, like, all the parks are empty, pretty much empty. I mean, like, it's certainly not packed. Like, there's the occasional person that you will see, but the reality is you can live in a full, reasonably dense neighborhood, and you can walk all over the place every single day and never actually have a conversation with another person, because people don't go outside. They sit in their cars, they sit in their offices, they sit on their phones, and they sit in front of TVs, and that's it. And people have this idea of what's important and what's not, and people have a sense of their own self-importance, I guess. But if you look around, you see everybody's obese, totally fat. Like, I'm not trying to be judgmental to people. And I will also say there's a difference between being a little bit overweight and being so obese that it's like some sort of wild, unreasonable idea for you to walk across a parking lot or something. People are just sitting in drive-throughs and sitting everywhere, and you talk to people, even people that have jobs you'd think are a little bit active, and I could talk to people and say, well, how many steps do you get in a day? And the average person I'll talk to will be like, oh, well, I'm lucky if I get a mile in or something. Thinking, man, that's really kind of crazy. Like, you never move. You never move unless you have to. You're forced to move. And then you look, to put this in contrast, you look at other places, like maybe other countries, and you see streets are a lot more packed with people, and busy places like India or something. And I know there's different reasons for that, like population density is higher and stuff like that. But there's also got to be something to be said for the fact that we are moving into a time where people are so antisocial. Is becoming a problem. Then I think about how there's so many people who want to, they want to be on social media and they want to do Instagram and they want to do all this kind of stuff like that. But ultimately, they do not want to interact with a real person. And then people have this attitude of being, it's fine to ghost people. It's fine to have the attitude of treating people like they're disposable. If you feel like it, scroll along and, like this or that. And if you don't, then just delete them and move on. Like, that's the attitude we have in our society. And it's a big part probably because of technology. It's because we are so disconnected from having to actually just have one-on-one personal interactions with other people. It starts to be a thing where it's hard to even find an opportunity to talk to another person. And then we start to have the problems of just antisocial behaviors getting out of control. Like, I was reading something about how a lot of Gen Z folks are so socially keyed up, they are not comfortable having a phone conversation, and they want to work from home and only engage with people via some sort of a indirect form of communication, like maybe an email or a text message or something like that. But they don't want to have to actually look at somebody and speak to them. Now, I'm not an extremely social person. I like to spend time alone. I like to do my own thing. So I get that. But at what point does it go too far? And I think that's a question we should be asking ourselves. We should be looking for ways to take personal experiences and share them with others, because that's really what takes experiences to the next level, when we share them with other people and we do things in a meaningful way that actually has enough substance to where it can actually get traction and turn into something beautiful in our lives. You can't ever get traction on anything if you look at life through the lens of trying to 100% hide from the world, and you don't want to do anything which requires any physical activity or any direct connection. I saw this meme that was shared somewhere, and it said that the number of young to middle-aged men who are virgins increased statistically dramatically in the last 20 years or so. And then somebody overlaid the time when social media became mainstream and tried to make a connection to say that the two were directly connected, as in men stopped having relationships whenever the social media started to replace social life. I don't know if that's true, but certainly it does have a certain ring of truth to it. When people start to feel like there's no reason to be genuine with other people because you can't really trust people, and ultimately there's no way to hold people accountable for their actions, then everyone kind of becomes a joke. You just start to realize you can't count on people, so you just count on yourself. And then we go into these silos. And next thing you know, we're all just sitting in our houses and we're playing our games and we're watching our TV shows and we're going to do our jobs with as little interaction as possible. And, that's that. Something's lost in the world at that point, though, and we know it. Doesn't mean that we should be too down on ourselves, I don't think, but there's got to be some balance. And so I just, I don't know that I'm trying to say what the solution is, but I think it's a conversation, though, that's worth thinking on. I think for all of us, there's always opportunities to look for ways to share our experiences with others. And if you can, do it. Look for ways to reach out. Look for ways to open doors so that you aren't just an island by yourself. Even if you're a little bit more of an introverted sort of person, look for ways to not be an island. And maybe in the past there was a time when it was difficult to avoid social contracts. And today, in our technology-driven world, it's a lot easier to perhaps self-isolate in your own silo. But it's just a good thing to make some effort to connect with other people. Not through your job, not over something that you're forced to do, just in general, to connect with other people in a positive and open way. In a world that's constantly getting more isolated in some ways, we should all look for ways to connect more. I guess it's kind of like when, cars stopped people from wanting to ride around on horses as much. That's not a bad thing, because people can now drive places a lot faster than they could ever go there on a horse. But then sometimes people still want to go horseback riding just because it's an experience worth having. So even if you can maybe satisfy some of your social needs by scrolling Facebook, it's still not a bad idea to do things old school once in a while and actually say hello or get active and go out into the real world. Wherever you find yourself adventuring, good luck on your journey. Until next time, thanks for watching.